It is fitting that today is National DNA Day. We found the needle in the haystack, and it was right here in Sacramento. And with that, I would like to introduce our Sheriff, Scott Jones.
Good afternoon. Before I talk a little bit about this case, I'd like to make just a couple preliminary comments. When I became sheriff in Sacramento in 2010, there were very few outstanding cases that drew the passion and the interest and the dogged determination to solve as the East Area Rapist. The sheriff that I took over from, Sheriff John McGinnis, who's here with us today, told me about the importance of it. And I don't know that I fully appreciated it at that time, but I can tell you that without exception, weekly and sometimes more, I get telephone calls or emails to this day from former employees, former detectives, community members from all over this country that believe that they know or at least have some information on who the East Area Rapist was. I committed then to do everything that I could to solve it, and had a lot of conversations early on with District Attorney Schubert about how we could do it. And those discussions really touched the passion of both of us to solve this case. Both of us committed the best and the brightest, our hand-picked folks, to oversee the resolution of this case, and gave virtually unlimited resources and freedom to pursue whatever leads and technology currently existed. So I can tell you that over the last few days, as information started to point towards this individual, we started some surveillance. We were able to get some discarded DNA, and we were able to confirm what we thought we already knew, that we had our man. And yesterday afternoon, in a perfectly executed arrest, my detectives arrested James Joseph D'Angelo, 72 years old, living in Citrus Heights. I can tell you that although it was DNA ultimately that led us down the right road, there were a lot of places that road could have led. I don't want to...
And they have their man. Police announcing it on the West Coast in Sacramento, and Trace Gallagher following this from our West Coast News Hub. A 72-year-old former cop, is that right?
That's exactly right, Shep. I mean, this really is the most prolific unsolved serial murder case in modern history. And now, as you heard the sheriff say right there, they have arrested 72-year-old James Joseph D'Angelo. He is a former police officer in Auburn, California, which is about 30 miles outside of Sacramento. And he was actually fired from his job as a police officer for stealing a can of dog repellent. You think about that. The Golden State Killer goes unnoticed for 50 years, and he gets fired as a police officer for stealing a can of dog repellent. As the DA said at the top of that thing right there, the answer has always been in Sacramento. This suspect apparently lived outside of Sacramento for the past 20 years. He's now being held on 2 counts of murder. If, in fact, he turns out to be the Golden State Killer, also known as the East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker, he could eventually be charged with a dozen murders, 50 rapes, and hundreds of burglaries. Of course, it's been 42 years since the crime spree began in Sacramento, and the sheriff said, as you heard there, they never stopped investigating at all. The so-called East Area Rapist began in 1976 in Sacramento, always using the same M.O. He'd pry open a window while the victim slept, usually women who were alone or with small children, shine a flashlight in their eyes, and then rape the women, steal small items from the home, and sometimes he would even taunt his victims by calling them later on the telephone. In '78, the East Area Rapist became the Golden State Killer when a couple was shot and killed walking their dog. After terrorizing Sacramento, the San Francisco Bay Area, the killer, using the same pattern and same M.O., started moving down the coast to Santa Barbara, then on to Southern California, committing 7 more murders between 1979 and 1981. In Southern California, he was known as the original Night Stalker, but really, you heard the sheriff talking there, it wasn't until the advances in forensic technology that allowed investigators to match the DNA from the Night Stalker crimes in Southern California to the East Area Rapist in Sacramento and the San Francisco Bay Area. And for the past several years, the FBI and local police have been convinced that all 3 of these names have been the exact same man. And now you heard it there. They do believe they have the man who is all 3: Bay Area Rapist, Golden State Killer, and the original Night Stalker. He is 72-year-old Joseph James DeAngelo, a former police officer. We're still following this news conference, see if we can glean some more information about exactly what this man's background was and if he always lived in Sacramento, which, by the way, the DA said the answer has always been here in Sacramento. Unclear if he moved away to Southern California or Central California, or if he has always lived in the Sacramento area. Shep.
Trace, I wondered if they gave any information that you know of about what happened when the takedown happened and whether he had been incarcerated on other matters at any point.
You know, that's a good question, Chad, but I don't know because I'm not following the news conference anymore. But right now they're giving information kind of on the victims that he had over the years, and some of the victims are actually at this news conference. They didn't tell us exactly how he was taken down. They didn't tell us if he tried to avoid arrest. There's no information on that. We assume that will be coming in the minutes to come. But right now, they're just kind of giving us basic details of what went into this investigation, how long it took, spanning some 42 years, and what the key point was. We still don't know the linchpin. When they matched the DNA, how they got the DNA matches from the Golden State Killer and the East Area Rapist to this suspect is the big question. And as we listen on, we hope to find the answer out, Shep.
We'll be monitoring it from our West Coast News Hub and here in New York. Trace, thanks very much.